Welcome to part 2 of our Tablepress session. In the first part, we talked about using Tablepress to format tables. This time we're going to be talking about importing tabular data into a WordPress page using Tablepress. Here's an example of that with some web stats from the CSU extension server. Let me point out a couple of things before we see how to build this. One, as we looked at in our earlier session, if I collapse this browser into a more cell phone-like configuration, I can see that this formats very nicely and that the data just wraps around. And also notice that the end user can sort by any column here in the table. They can also vary the number of entries using this tool. So let's see how to build one of these. And here we are at the WordPress dashboard. I'm going to go to Tablepress. Now to format a page, I used Add New Table. To import data from an Excel spreadsheet, I'm going to use Import a Table. This dialog box appears. I'm going to browse to my CSV or Character Separated Values column that I exported from an Excel document. It's easy, just save as a .ssv when you're in Excel. I will click Browse. Here is my file, those web stats we were looking at earlier. So I'll click Open. And then I'm using this import format of CSV, Character Separated Values. I can replace an existing table or append these rows to an existing table. I will add this as a new table and click Import. Here is the dialog box. We've seen this before. All our rows and all our columns are already filled in. We can add basic HTML to this if we want, though I don't think we need to. Here are the same table manipulation tools that we had previously. Couple of notes here. You probably don't want to combine cells in either a row or a column because that's going to limit the end user's ability to sort columns and rows. Also, inserting an image, as we saw when we were formatting a table using images in our previous session, is going to really limit your format in terms of working on mobile devices if that image has a fixed size, which it will if you put in an image. So be aware that whenever you insert images, that fixed size, if it's larger than say 150 pixels, might well interfere with a mobile device's use of the page. We have the same table options down here. First row will be the header, background row colors will alternate, and the row will highlight when you hover over it. This section was grayed out when we used the Tablepress for page formatting. The reason it was grayed out is because we had combined two cells in a row. However, since we're combining rows or columns here, we can enable the sorting of the table, enable the visitor to filter or search the table, enable pagination of the table and the number of rows per page, and the ability of the end user to change that. So this gives a lot of added functionality to the end user, and I highly recommend using these settings. This last one is to enable that horizontal scrolling. Be aware that can be pretty annoying to the end user. However, you can enable it if you like. We'll click Save Changes. And our table ID is in the upper right-hand corner. So I'll select that and Control and C to copy it. And here we are at the Tablepress tabular data page. My dialog box is blank here, so I'm going to click in here and Control and V in, paste in that shortcode we just copied for this table. I'll click Update, and then I will click the URL. And here's that table we saw earlier. And that is how to import tabular data from an Excel sheet to WordPress using Tablepress.